You just missed the catapult and the trebuchet. I'm so sorry. We just put them away. Trebuchet won. I meant to do this last week, and I forgot. After Christmas and New Year's, we're going to be using the second book, the Renaissance. Hey guys, I need you to stop. I will ask you questions about things, and you can talk to me to your heart's content in a minute. We're going to start the Renaissance and Reformation Times book, but I just wanted to touch on that today. What do you usually think of when you hear the word the Renaissance? Okay, and what is he most noted for? Paintings. Okay, so I was thinking, were you going to say art? Yeah. It's more than that, but it's largely art. And so we get the idea that, in the 1400s, 1500s, 1600s, art was changing, and it was, but it was happening a long time before that. Even the time that we're talking about, even almost, during the time of the Crusades. And so I brought two pictures in for us to compare, and I'm going to walk slowly around the room so you can see them. One of them is, don't tell you which is which, and I'll see if you can tell. One of them is very much still painted in the Eastern Byzantine style. Did I bring in icons? Did I bring in Orthodox icons for you guys to see? I don't remember. I should do that. In the East, they were not worried about making things look real. It wasn't that they couldn't do it. They didn't have any interest in doing it. Pictures for them, especially religious pictures, were sort of like windows to see a reality on the other side. They were aids, they were spiritual aids to worship. They were not representing reality. But in the West, they started looking back to, they found Greek and Roman statues, and they started looking back to a time when art was very realistic. And they started painting pictures where the people looked more like real people. I don't know how else to describe it except to show you two examples, okay? So these are the same subject. Obviously, it's Mary and Jesus. But one of them, and you can keep to yourself which we think is which, one of them is very kind of flat and Eastern looking, and one of them, they look like real people. They look round. They look three-dimensional. Do you know what I mean? Not flat. Can you see the difference in the people? And the one that I think can I just do all of you at once? Can you all see at once? The one that I think you're going to vote looks more like real people was painted in the late 1200s, much earlier than we think of the Renaissance often. But this painter that painted the one that I think you're going to vote for is considered the pioneer of the Renaissance, the first Renaissance artist. Sander, welcome. So which one do you think, okay, I have to see, point to the direction. Which one is more realistic? Does everyone vote on this one? Do you notice how the shading on Mary's face makes her face look round? And in this one, there's shading. You can see there's a little depth, but everything seems very, I don't know what else to say except flat, not alive. Like I said, they didn't do it because they were incapable. They weren't bad artists. This was what they were going for. But in the West, they decided that's not what we're going for anymore. The artist who painted this in the 1200s, his name is Giotto. You do not have to write this down. We will be visiting him again because he did an amazing series on St. Francis that I'll be bringing in. So I want you to keep in mind when we get after Christmas and New Year's, and I start bringing in artwork, and we start talking about changes in art. It's already happening in the time we're talking about now, with the castles and the knights, and it's already happening. It didn't just happen overnight. this was a period of several hundred years. And it happened earlier than we sometimes think. So I just wanted to, I meant to do that last week, and I had them with me, and then you guys walked out of the room. And did I do it? No. Xander, I have a paper for you. Do you have a paper for me? Okay. And you guys can, what page are we on? 30, 35? Oh, no, that's not the right page, is it? You can open to your reading questions. Is this the right page, 29? I don't have my glasses on, I can't see.
It is 29.
Okay.
I mean, I.
Oh, no, what page are we on this week? Somebody tell me that.
27.
27, there it is. Okay. This week we talked, you guys read about knighthood and knights, which is kind of doing double duty because we're reading King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. So we're getting lots of knights. And let's actually, no, let's start with our reading questions first, and then we'll do our writing. Yes, page 27. Let's look at our questions and talk about this chapter. Dorothy Mills tells us, and we've heard this in the King Arthur book too, about chivalry. Chivalry is a code of conduct, right? And do you remember at the end of last week's class, I read what Merlin said over the round table? He said, always give mercy to people that beg for mercy, because, when, was it Gawain didn't do it and he chopped off that lady's head because she jumped in front to shield her husband. And then, well, you know what? But we're going to blame the knight because here's why. Even if she had jumped in front of him, if Gawain had shown mercy, it never would have happened. It was against the code of conduct. When someone asks mercy and forgiveness, you give it. That is the code. What? Just a second. Is that a Christian code? If someone asks mercy and forgiveness, we grant it? Yes. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. That's a pretty powerful thing that we say, isn't it? If I don't forgive other people, may I not be forgiven. That's what you just said. That's what I just said. Go ahead, Owen. What did you want to say?
This has to do with writing, but I had an idea. If we're doing creative writing, I had an idea. We could make up a night and basically make up a quest that they go on to prove it.
You know what? You can pretty much do that with the thing I made up already. That's a very good idea. That fits in very nicely. So the first question I asked you guys, what are some of the ideals of chivalry? I just gave you one, mercy. What else did you find in the Dorothy Mills reading?
Be courteous.
Be courteous. What does that mean?
Not rude.
What?
Not rude.
Not rude. Be loyal. Can I jump back to courteous just a minute? Courteous is spelled kind of weird. Courteous, but it's spelled like this. Courtesy.
Court.
Yes, it's the manners. It's the manners that you would practice at court. It's the manners you would practice among the nobility or your betters. We don't like to say that in today's society because we don't like to think of betters, but back then they weren't afraid to say certain people were just better than me. They were more educated, they were better behaved, and I want to imitate them because they have good manners. So courtesy, loyalty. The high school kids are getting ready to read a book about the Fourth Crusade. And I was reading the beginning of it again last night to get ready for next week. And he just goes on and on about disloyalty. How they got a crew together to get on the ships, and some of them wouldn't come at the right time. Some of them went to other ports as they were heading out east. Some of them said they would go on crusade, and then they just didn't do it. And he just hammers it in. They were disloyal. They were disloyal. They let us down. This was a big deal. Is loyalty a Christian virtue also? We said mercy and forgiveness is. How about loyalty? To whom should we be loyal above all things? God. God, isn't that why we celebrate the martyrs? Loyalty unto death. Jesus, who was obedient unto death, he was loyal. So far, I like these guys. You know, last week they sounded pretty bad, didn't they? But remember that we had to take an oath not to steal people's horses between Wednesday night and Sunday morning, and then apparently the other 3 days of the week. Go for it. This sounds very different, doesn't it? Did anybody else find another chivalric trait? One of them I see here, Merlin also mentioned. In Dorothy Mill's second big paragraph, she says, oh, did I miss it here? Oh, consideration for those in distress or need. If someone needs your help, you stop and do it. So last week in King Arthur, we saw King Pellinore, who was doing the questing beast thing, which I don't really understand. But later, do you remember what happened to him? Or were you going to say something else?
The questing beast is like the hydra or something.
Oh, is it? Oh, I don't want to quest that at all. I want to run in the other direction. Well, he got off of that, and somebody's chasing the deer, somebody's chasing the dog, somebody's chasing the woman, somebody's chasing the nice. Okay, and but they found him standing behind a well, and there was a dead man and a dead lady, and he was weeping over them, and he said, "Oh, I passed by here, and she begged me to help her, and I was busy and I didn't have time because I was on my quest." And I came back and she had slain herself for grief. And so he has to bear that now, that I didn't stop when someone needed me. Do you notice in the King Arthur stories, somebody just walks in? We're a rectangle table here. We're not the round table, you know. Somebody walks into our room and somebody walks into their room and just says, "Sire, King, I beg a boon of you. Please help me." They just wander in off the streets to say, "Please help me." And do King Arthur's knights always help? Well, can you think of a time when they didn't?
I don't really know.
Oh, okay. Well, I think, does anybody think of a time in the stories we've read when somebody didn't get up and go help? Sometimes not the person they want. We read about Sir Gaheris, the kitchen knight this week, and we'll talk about that. But they go help.
I actually read the stories. I just
You skipped over that part. Oh, my heart is broken. Oh, okay. Yes, as long as you didn't skip the Green Knight. Okay, because that was great from Prowling. Dorothy Mills uses a strange phrase. And I would like to see if anyone knows what it means. I will write it because when you say it, it doesn't necessarily look like it's spelling. Noblesse oblige. Noblesse oblige. Now, you can probably, it looks a lot like the English, you can probably figure out what it means. What do you think it means?
I don't know, but I think that's for castle.
Oh, tell us that.
Chate.
Or is it chateau or chate?
It's like French.
Is it E-A-U at the end?
I think it's E-A.
E-A?
It sounded like French whenever I was I just always put this
Okay, oh, you guys are just a hoot. Okay, let's go back to this. Noblesse oblige. What does the word noblesse look like? Noble. What does the word oblige, and actually, if you pronounce it differently, it oblige, obligation. So why do you think the words nobility or noble and obligation or oblige If you put those together into an idea, what do you think it might mean?
You're obliged to do something to the nobles.
You're really, really close. Not to the nobles. The nobles are the ones obliged to do something
So the king.
because they're nobles. No, let's read the sentence. She says all these chivalric traits, and then it says noblesse oblige expresses what was required of those who were bound by the obligations of chivalry, not the obligations of being a vassal or a lord, the obligations of chivalry. What were they? We just said loyalty, courtesy, helping those in need, mercy and forgiveness. If I am a knight, if I am a member of the nobility, are you guys with me?
Yes.
I am obliged, because I am, to treat other people in a certain way. In a perfect world, including people who are far beneath me. If I'm following the code of chivalry, I'm not mistreating my serfs. Yeah, they may have a hard life. And it doesn't mean I have to, build them their own castles and everything. But I'm not going to be beating them because they didn't bring in enough food this year. And if one of them comes to the castle and says they can't work for me this week because their family is sick, I let them stay home. I don't say, well, I don't care. You have to come work for me. I am obliged because I have privileges that they don't have. I am obliged to be kind to those who need my help. Does that make sense to you guys? That's what she means by that. That's what we mean when we say that. And knights, this applied to knights. So just like in King Arthur, they were obliged because they had a position of power and authority. They were obliged to help other people. And I feel like this is a Christian virtue too. Are we, by virtue of the fact that we are Christians, are we obliged to help other people? Is that our duty? Yeah, Jesus, they said it was the second command. The second command, like the first, which was love the Lord your God, love your neighbor as yourself. And all of these sum up the law and the prophets. So I feel like these guys were on a good track. You know what, Nathan? They did not follow it, did they? Or we wouldn't have to have rules about don't burn your neighbor's land and steal their horses from Wednesday night to Sunday at sunrise. We wouldn't need that.
In the back of
It would.
King Arthur had like different things to think about in the story. And one of them was, do you think it's interesting that all the knights in the Round Table will completely follow the rules of chivalry except for Sir Galahad?
Who is the worst? Have you gathered which of King Arthur's knights? Say it again. Sir Kay is a jerk, isn't he? Oh my goodness. So I was reading back over what you guys read for this week, and there was one where Sir Kay just slapped a lady across the face. Did you catch that? He slapped. This was Sir Percival. Sir Percival. And he treats people like Percival. Percival, a little wild, came in from the woods, doesn't really know much about civilization. In fact, can't get the armor off the guy he's just killed, so he's decided to set fire to him and burn his body out of it until the guy comes by and says, it comes off in pieces. He doesn't know anything. Sir Kay has no patience with that. Sir Gaheris, the knight of the kitchen, how does Sir Kay treat him? You low-life scum. Get back in the kitchen. You stink. You stink of the kitchen. And he turns out to be great. Sir Kay is not chivalrous. I sometimes wonder why King Arthur puts up with him, except that they grew up together. This is the bonds of family, I guess. Sometimes we have family members that are, not that any of you do, but sometimes it could happen that we have family members that are not the best. And what do? We put up with them, and we're as kind to them as we can be. That's what Arthur does, because he's chivalrous. Okay. So if you want to be a knight, you guys want to be knights. Is it 100% guaranteed you will become knights just because you want to?
No, you have to have a rich family, and you have to be rich born, or I can't remember.
If your dad is a knight, are you automatically going to be a knight?
No.
He can't just hand it down to you, like his fortune or his title? No, he can't. He can't hand his knighthood down. It says it was something that had to be merited. I've actually slipped down to the third question I asked you. Yes, it says many men did not become knights because they were not rich enough, not of sufficiently gentle birth. That means they weren't noble enough, or they just couldn't cut it in some other way because it was a hard life. But if you wanted to be a knight, when do you start your training? Do you remember how old? At 7 years old. Yeah, I find this is probably doesn't interest you guys at all, but 7 seems to be a magic number for training children. In Illinois, not until very long ago, that was the compulsory school age. If you weren't 7 years old, you didn't have to the kids didn't have to go to school or report to anybody if you were 7. And then I was reading a book about education in antiquity, like in Greece and Rome and Hellenistic times, and 7 was their sweet number, where they decided kids should maybe, not hang out with their moms 24/7 unless their moms are teaching them, and start actually doing some work. Same here. 7 years old. Is your dad okay? Your dad's a knight. Is your dad going to train you to be a knight? Who?
Send you off to a castle, probably like hundreds of miles.
Why would he do this, Nathan? Does he not like you? Why would he do it?
Maybe no, but he just does that.
Maybe sometimes that's true. Now, why? Can you think of a good reason why? Here's the thing. It may not seem like it to you guys, but sometimes parents are kind of soft, I am. Oh, are you tired? Are you sore today? Let's not do our horseback and sword training so hard today, son. Or maybe just the parental love. It's dangerous, all of this training, this physical training, and maybe it's better if someone who is not the parent is in charge of it. I don't know. This is the only reason I can come up with. You got another good reason?
Maybe they could have been too hard on him.
I hadn't really thought of it that direction, but sometimes we expect more out of our own children than we do out of others. I have a brother-in-law who's a school teacher, and I know my niece and nephew were not really wild about the year they spent in his classroom. When my dad was the teacher in the classroom, he didn't want to look like he was showing favoritism, so he kind of expected even more. I don't know. Maybe some parents swing one way and some parents swing the other. But if you send them somewhere else, you don't have to deal with any of those problems. Usually it wasn't a complete stranger. Maybe you got sent to your uncle or your cousin's family or something like that. And so you start training when you're 7. And Dorothy Mills put a long section, a couple of pages, of how young pages, which is what your status is when you're training, how they should behave and how children should behave. And I asked you if you thought they were good instructions for how children should behave. What do you think? Did you see anything in the list of instructions that jumped out at you that you thought was really good or really bad? You had to be what, Nathan? I can't hear you. Nathan, you have to be what? You have to be really, really something, and then you trailed off.
You have to be about as close to perfect as you can get.
You have to be really, yes, very careful. What do you think, Zach?
It had a lot to do with religion, like pray now, pray that. I mean, that was for adults too, but a lot of it, even for the children who may not even understand their faith completely.
Yes.
And they also didn't really have a say in, like, if they heard a conversation, they couldn't really speak or learn to carry on as a conversation. I don't know.
Yeah. What's good? And by the way, I am not classifying you guys as children in this category. We're talking about very young children. We're talking about sort of K through 3, K through 4 young children. What's the upside of a child being trained not to speak when grown-ups are talking? Is there an upside? Because I can think of one. Well, yeah, but we all know that little kids sometimes say silly things. But when you're talking, what can't you do? Well, if you're not talking, you can't interrupt. Yeah, oh, I see what you mean. But if I am talking, there's something else that I'm not doing at the same time. Listening. It's very hard to talk and listen at the same time. So maybe if kids are quiet, they can listen to what the grown-ups are saying and they can learn something from it. And is that an upside or a downside? It is a downside. I agree. Because kids bubble over with questions. I hope you guys, well, you do ask questions. I hope you never stop asking questions. I have tons of questions. Don't ever lose that. But if you're not allowed to ask them, you can't ever learn anything. So I don't know how I feel about the children quiet thing. They definitely felt strongly about it. But Zach also mentioned a lot of religious instructions. It starts out, arise betimes from your bed. Get up, don't sleep late. Arise betimes, get up early. Cross your breast and your forehead, wash your hands and face, comb your hair, and ask the grace of God to speed you in all your works. Then go to Mass and ask mercy for all your trespasses. Say good morning courteously to whomsoever you meet by the way. Every morning, what do? Take care of your body, right? Clean yourself up, pray, and go to church. That seems good. Church every day. And a lot of times, and even today, a lot of Roman Catholics go to Mass every morning. I know. I have friends that go to Mass every day. Yes.
Everyone knows exactly what they're saying. Homeschoolers.
Okay, let's just out it right here because Oren opened it up. Could homeschool kids also be rude?
No.
They could be rude. Let's just all admit it. We're not angels. Okay. Well, I didn't think of it that way. Okay, let me look at a few practical things. Look ye be not caught leaning on the table and keep clear of soiling the cloth. Don't dump your gravy on the tablecloth. Cut your bread with a knife and break it not. Lay a clean trencher before you. Do you guys know what a trencher is? Oh, it is, but not in this case. Zach knows. Listen.
It's like a stale piece of bread that you eat out and then you eat it afterwards.
Yes, you take a stale piece of bread, and it will soak up the gravy and stuff. Hey guys, when we're talking, we're not listening. And you put your food on the bread, and it kind of soaks up the juices, and then you can eat the bread. But now that it's all kind of gooey with meat juices and stuff, which I don't know, doesn't appeal to me, but it cuts down on cleaning plates. Although, what about the table under it? I have a question on that. Yes.
It's incorrect. There's not 1,000 dishes to watch.
Just one table.
What about the bread being stale? I feel like nobody would want to eat it.
Well, maybe that's why we soak it in stuff. We soak it in meat and vegetables and gravy and stuff. I don't know. Have any of you ever been to medieval times in Chicago? It's awesome, isn't it? They do not feed you on trenchers, if I remember correctly.
But it was so much fun. They actually fed you though, and it was so much fun. You gotta watch Knights fight.
Yes, they fight right. They joust right in front of you. It's very cool. It's not inexpensive, but it's a fun trip. And it gives you the experience, although they don't do the full trencher experience. Okay, I like this one. Do not carry your knife to your mouth with food. Don't.
Who does that? You have to have like extreme bounces.
Here's the thing. There were no spoons, and in many cases there were no forks. And the knife that you had was basically your knife, the knife that you have with you. Yeah, that's the face I want to make too. Like, oh, did you clean that knife? Did you clean it before you used it? Oh, yeah, you just have a knife and you just use it. And then you just, if you don't have any class, apparently, you just stab your stuff and eat it off the end of your knife. It says, do not hold the meat in your hands. Fried chicken. Maybe they're not having fried chicken. And also, if diverse good meats are brought to you, look that with all courtesy you essay of each. Try a little bit of everything. Have you ever heard this at the table? You should try some of that. You should try some of that. Some things never change. Yeah, Oren, what did you want to say?
What if you're eating with your knife or something? You killed something with that knife?
I don't know. I don't even want to think about it, Oren.
To keep your knife clean and sharpened. To keep your knife clean and sharpened.
I think we're getting a little bit of a clue. This is not the only reason, maybe not the biggest reason, but why a lot of people were not well in the Middle Ages. They didn't understand about germs. So let's cut them some slack. They didn't know that keeping things clean was an integral part of staying well. And the biggest thing, honestly, was they polluted their water. They didn't understand that you shouldn't, let the animals walk around in the water and poo in it and then drink out of it. I mean, you drink out of it, not the animals. This is not a good thing. But it wasn't a very sanitary time, we'll say. So in general, what do we like? Do we like the medieval advice to children, or do we think it's a little too harsh? No, you don't like it, or no, it's not too harsh, or both.
I kind of like. You can't expect them to be perfect.
This is true.
I don't want to risk my life every single day.
Well, I don't know that the pages are risking their lives, although it's always dangerous to be out where men are fighting and practicing fighting and horses are running around. But it's worth it, Nathan, because you want to be a knight. You want to be a knight. This is your goal, and you're willing to put up with it. All right. Well, we can ponder that, how we treat children today and how they treated children. But we kind of have an idea that, how do I want to say it? Back then, children were just little adults that weren't good enough at being adults yet. Do you understand what I mean? Like, they didn't cut children slack because there's certain things that they don't understand yet, or their minds don't really reason things out the way an adult does. They just looked at children and thought, children are just little adults, so act like one. And they made you do that as early as possible. And so they raise children that in a lot of cases were really, really polite? And well, absolutely. But did they raise children that were, I don't know, comfortable talking to other people? Maybe not always. Yeah, Oren.
Is there any situation where you don't want to become a knight, but you're for some reason forced to?
Ooh. I don't know of a story, but do you know, Oren? I think that must happen because it happens in all times. Do you know, sometimes young people, your parents have a dream for you. And, they want you to become a doctor or a lawyer or something, and you don't want to do that. I'm not meaning any of you personally. I just mean a person that might happen. And we hear stories about that. I don't know why it would have been different then. If a dad said, well, you're going to become a knight and like it. I'm like, I don't really want to walk that path. Sometimes it does, unfortunately. Yeah. Owen, what did you want to say?
If you were like an adult or a kid, and you were like basically believed it in bulk America like it is today, you would probably get looked at mistake for it in the Middle Ages.
Yes, you would.
You said it's happening when you
Yes, you would. Okay, one more. Oren.
What happens to all the women?
What do you mean?
Like, there's no women in any story anywhere.
Well, except for in King Arthur, the damsels that come in. Well, you're not going to become a knight if you're a woman. But here's the thing: who takes care of the household while the knights are away? The women. And as a matter of fact, they have to manage the whole household. I managed a household. I had 4 kids, so that's a small. What if I had 30, 50 servants? And a castle full of, I had the blacksmith shop, and I had to make sure the serfs were getting what was due to them, and I was collecting everything. It was a full-scale major operation to manage. This is what the women did. Women were very competent. They just didn't do the flashy stuff. It's not flashy to manage the home, but it's really important. And so if your husband has gone on crusade for 2 years, who's going to take care of business? You are. You are. Does that make sense? And so the young women, although we read in Charlemagne's time that he was training the girls and boys equally in school, but a lot of times the girls, the most important thing they were going to need to do was take care of a household. So that's what they were trained to do. But that doesn't mean they didn't learn to read or write or anything. A lot of women could, but does that make sense? But they just don't get to go off on they don't do the flashy stuff, the stuff that makes headlines. They do the behind the scenes stuff that civilization will collapse if they don't do. All right, we read about what these knights do, because you know what? Sometimes you're fighting with your neighbor. Last week we had you 4 guys back there. We had 2 of you. I don't remember. I feel like maybe it was Bentley and Nathan, but I can't quite remember. Okay, we're burning each other's crops and everything. So, but if you are a knight following the rules of chivalry, you're not doing that. Maybe there's no war. Maybe there's no one in distress. What are you going to do with your time? Possibly, but we'd like to do those 3 things in a special situation. We'd like to do them in a tournament or a joust, right? What is the purpose of a tournament? This was the next question I asked you. Yes, Dora. Training. Training. Was that, you want to add something? Was that what you're going to say? I need to be ready. So we have 2 choices. You guys, can I think you have all seen a movie somewhere with the 2 guys galloping with their horses on each side with the lances? Have we all seen this? And they bash their lance against the other guy's shield, and it splinters all into bits, and they fly everywhere. Probably seen on TV or a movie or something like that. That's a joust, right? 2 guys, one against the other, riding down opposite sides of the lists, which is what the course is called, and trying to knock each other off their horses. It wasn't just a free-for-all. There were actually points for where you hit your opponent. If you shiver your opponent's lance, it was a point system. It was an actual contest. It wasn't just, let's just go out and run at each other and whack each other off our horses. There were rules. A tournament is where this side of the room just gets all their armor on, and they just decide to fight this side of the room. You're just all going to go out in the middle, and we're going to watch. We're going to get snacks and drinks, and we're going to watch while you just fight each other. And sometimes people got hurt, and sometimes people got killed. Sometimes it was very dangerous. But when I show up to the joust or the tournament, I want to look my best, right? I want everyone looking at me. Now, how are they going to know who I am if I'm all covered up in armor? And what about my shield particularly is going to... I'm going to have a device. I'm going to have a coat of arms. This is me holding a shield on my shield, and everyone's going to know who I am. So remember in the story where Sir Kay was getting beat up, because he's a jerk, and he usually does. He almost always deserves it. And Lancelot saw him and brought him into the inn, and then Lancelot switched armor with him. Do you remember this story? And then Lancelot, just out of the goodness of his heart, decided just to punish a few people for being mean to Kay, even though Kay deserves it. So he goes out in Kay's armor, and everybody rides up and says, Sir Kay, we can take him easy. He's a loser. He's easy. But it was Lancelot, who's not easy and not a loser. And everybody kept getting knocked off their horses by Sir Kay. They're so confused. This is because he had Sir Kay's device on his shield. So I have already sent your parents an email for this week. And in it, I gave them a couple of links to websites that talk about making your own coat of arms, like what all the symbols meant. And so check those out. Maybe you'd like to, make a cardboard shield or a wooden shield and paint a coat of arms. Maybe you'd like to make up a coat of arms for your family. You can think about it. Yes.
Now, so you say that you can make up your own.
Sure.
Also, a while ago, it's like where you actually looked up our family's actual coat of arms, like Shaw.
Oh, yes.
Like, you're allowed to be might actually have a coat of arms.
This is true. So I'm Ferguson.
Golden green.
And Fergusons are Scottish, although I'm not only because I'm married to one. I wasn't born that way. But we went to the Celtic Highland Games in Davenport, and they sell all sorts of coats of arms, and they had a Ferguson, and I don't know if we're related to that strain of Ferguson. So yeah, look into it, because you might have a coat of arms already. Yeah, Nathan.
Considering that my name is McAlpine,
I feel like
event of like Scottish, I'm pretty sure. Or like Dutch, something like that, like Alpine casting.
yes. But you could, even if your ancestral family has one, you could make one for your immediate family, because you can choose things that represent who you are. Like my kids made one, and one of my kids wanted to put a book on it because we love to read and things like that. Things that are symbolic of who you are and what you like to do. Yeah, Oren. I think they all did. I'm sure. Well, you know what? The wonders of the internet now, whether or not you can trust what you find. But I'm sure if you Googled, Gamel coat of arms, something might come up. So I brought in a couple of fun pictures. I'm not gonna go real fast. This one you can see from a distance. Not only do I want to look good, I want my horse to look good. This is horse armor.
What?
I know.
It looks like
It
looks like a Minecraft skeleton voice.
I like it.
No.
I don't know how the horse felt about it.
It looks like a pony that is dead.
It's got a little unicorn horn. Don't you love it? All right, but this is my favorite. I have to read what it says. All right, are we ready? Because you got to be ready to see this. In the early 16th century, it became fashionable to wear helmets with strange mask-like visors in parades during tournaments. Sometimes knights even wore them during the tourney itself. The visors were fitted to otherwise normal close helmets. This one is like an eagle's head with feathers etched into the metal. All right. I feel like I would want to sort of laugh when the knight came out wearing this helmet.
That's super weird.
But it is super weird, isn't it? He's got a beak.
Whoa.
Whoa, this is how I feel when I see this. Can you guys, all four of you, see this?
What? It looks like a chicken.
It does look a little like a chicken.
Wait, it looks like an eagle head. A chicken with
Why
the
is
face
his
of a
nose an
monkey.
eagle face?
Because
Why is it the nose?
because he can. Well, because I don't know. I don't know. I am not the designer. I am only the messenger.
This is the big silver thing, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Why?
It's with the bird.
Why?
I know.
So wait, like the eye slit look like that? Does that mean you have to hit your hand over?
Yes. Okay. So Zach just mentioned the next thing. So I'm gonna just show you this one from afar because I think you can get the feel. Okay. Can everybody see this helmet up here in the corner? Can you kind of see it? All right. It looks like a bucket. Doesn't it look a bit like a bucket on your head? And as Zach pointed out, this is the eye slit. So what are you gonna do? Okay, I'm on a horse, right? And I've got that bucket thing on my head. And I have to go like this to see. Because the eye hole is up here, right? So, and I'm riding towards the guy. But if I keep my head down when I get close and Lance's splinter, little bits are gonna go in the hole. So right at the last minute, I put my head up and I can't see anything. I just sort of aim. I aim the best I can, and then I just hope for the best. So some of you may have seen a very funny movie called A Knight's Tale that involves a knight who doesn't do that. He stays with his aim, and he doesn't tip his head back. And they talk about the fact that he's in serious danger of getting splinters. I mean, that will blind him or drive through, into his brain and kill him. It's awful. But yes, I can't even imagine. Okay, I'm looking now to protect myself. I'm just gonna keep riding forward and hoping my aim was good, and I'm not gonna know when the moment of impact exactly is gonna happen. I'm sure they got good enough that they could do it just a split second before. But yes. So tournaments and jousts are a place to show off my awesome armor, my bird beak helmet, to see the ladies, quite frankly, and for the ladies to be seen in the audience, and socialize. Wait, was it Jaden? You said eat, drink, and socialize? But what do we? Oh, that was Nathan. Eat, drink, and socialize. Yes, but let's do it and fight at the same time because that puts the finishing touch on the whole thing. These are tournaments and jousts, and we've all seen them. You guys said you'd all seen them in movies. I don't know how accurate the movies are. I just don't know if I could watch something like that. People died in these tournaments and jousts. It was serious business. Okay, so if we're not having a tournament or a joust, or maybe it's after it's done, maybe your oldest daughter has gotten married and your vassals all brought in their feudal aid dues to pay her dowry and everything. You're going to have a big feast. Let's have a party. Who might show up to entertain you at your feast?
Minstrels, troubadours, singers, and jongleurs.
Yes. Minstrels, troubadours, jongleurs. What's the difference? I didn't see this the first couple of times I read through this. What's the difference between a minstrel and a troubadour? They both go around singing songs. Did you catch? It's one sentence.
Where troubadours sang and wrote their poems, minstrels brought tales and instruments from their travels.
All right, but they all go around and singing tales. Here, it's on page 190 in my book. Troubadours, everybody listen to this. Troubadours were men of knightly rank. Troubadours were knights. Maybe somebody said, what if you don't want to be a knight, Maybe if you go through the whole knight thing and then you can just do, take the war track. Hey guys, shh. Take the war track or the singer track, troubadours. Did they have TV? Radio? Computers? No entertainment at all. And, well, yeah, I mean, normal entertainment, we go out and play. But no, very few books probably in your castle. Very few. It's a delight when these guys come around and perform for you, right? Jongleurs were everything. They were acrobats, singers, dancers, probably, you know, magicians of a sort, you know, conjurers, not real magic, but you know what I mean. What do they call it? Yeah, they don't illusionists, yes, because it's not. We all know they're tricking our eyes, you know. It would be an amazing time when these people came to your town. But this made me very curious. I know nothing else about it except this sentence. Troubadours were men of knightly rank. When does the knight decide I'm just going to travel around and entertain people? Maybe. I don't know. All right, that is knights. Knights and castles that you just gave me the paper for. We are going to write a story about a knight. Owen already gave us an awesome sort of idea. In my Dorothy Mills book, our books are not all exactly the same. In mine, there is a picture. It looks like this. Do you guys have this picture in your book?
I think so.
I do.
It is not a medieval painting. It is much later than that, but it is of a knight being dubbed a knight, and it is called the accolade because that's what they called being dubbed a knight. By the way, we always see them doing it with the sword, right? Have you seen this in movies? I dubbed the, but did you catch what the alternate way of doing it was? Punch him in the back of the neck. Just punch him in the back of the neck. It says a sharp, what did it say? A sharp blow with the fist on the back of his neck.
What if it like breaks his neck and he dies?
I don't know what to say about that. But then I was reading something else after I read that, and it mentioned again that was the original. Just whack them.
So what's deeper, having a sharp sword right next to your neck, or having a guy punch
I don't know. I'm going to take the sword. Yes, Oren. Hey guys, I can't hear you. You're very careful. Also, I'm guessing, Oren, we're not using the sharpest of swords in this case. Okay, I have a copy, a color copy of the accolade for each of you. Please take one and then pass it to the next person. And you are going to write a story based on this picture. And I will tell you how we're going to do it. Writing with pictures. That is it. This is, I've said this before, this is the one thing that public school children do really, really well. They know how to take one and pass it down. We do that a lot. I spent a lot of my school career taking one and passing it down. And you guys sort of, I see you take one and then you give one to your neighbor and you keep it's very entertaining to watch you. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. I would like everybody to stop having a conversation, first of all. Second of all, I would like everybody to use page 26. Is page 26 still blank for you? Okay, awesome. If it's not, you can use page 28. And I would like you to put an outline. And you can have, I just put 4 points. You can have lots and lots of points. I will try. It will be hard to turn this into a 5-paragraph essay because it's a 3-paragraph creative writing story. So, what do you need? Does anybody have a writing instrument to spare? A pencil or a pen? Here, I've got one in my purse. Except my purse is not over there. Here you go. Jonathan. Okay. Here's what I want you to do. I would like everyone to stop talking and listen to me. I feel like maybe we've had lots of candy last night or something. I don't know if we're kind of sugared up. Everybody's very lively, considering it's so cold outside. Okay, are we ready to listen? Because I'm going to wait. Because somebody's not going to listen, and then they're going to say, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Okay. I gave you a picture. That picture is going to be paragraph 2. I want you to write next to your 2, what is happening in the picture. Mm-hmm.
So like the first paragraph would be like something leading up to it, and then you write a whole paragraph about this, and then you write a whole paragraph.
You're just too smart. Yes, that's exactly what it's going to be. So let's go ahead, since it's been outed. What happened before is your first paragraph. And what happened after? Now, I gave you an outline. You don't have any words together from anywhere, only words in your own brain, right? So, yes, Jonathan. A picture is worth 1,000 words, although you do not have to write 1,000 words for me if you don't wish to. But if you do, I will read every one of them. So we look at the picture, and the centerpiece of our story is going to be what's happening. And before I can write my story at all, I'm going to have to ask myself some questions, like who is this guy? Does he know the lady? Who are all those people in the hallway watching? Where did they come from? Are they relatives? Do they wish they were knights too? I don't know. They don't look like they're dressed very well. Are they the serfs from the estate come to watch the ceremony? Where are they? Where do they live? And so as I ask myself these questions, not only am I going to be able to describe what's happening in the picture, but I'm going to start thinking about, oh, I bet those guys are serfs. I bet they came in, this morning a messenger rode through the field saying, come to the Lord's son's knighting. And now the story is starting to unfold. And after is just fair game. Where will they go and what will they do? It can be later this day. It can be the rest of his life. I don't care. What's going to happen to this guy? It's up to you. Yes, Owen.
Do you want us to like actually write that in our outline?
Oh, no. Thank you for asking that. You do not have to say in the picture we see. Just tell me a story.
Okay.
But
do you want us to specify that we're writing off? Or, okay.
You don't have to. No, I know. Yeah. No. Oh, yes. I'm going to give you guys 2 weeks to do this, just because we've had a lot of writing recently, and I want you to take time on it. But you know what? Don't just not think about it this week. Put down some ideas. Stop and look at the picture. Use your imagination. Those of you who say, who are very imaginative and come up with all sorts of crazy ideas, this is your moment to shine. These guys can be anybody you want doing anything you want. Yes, Asher.
We have 2 weeks to do the outline or the outline?
The paper. We're going to do I want this paper 2 weeks from now. 2 weeks from now will be the week before Thanksgiving. And so it will be perfect timing. Yes, Jonathan.
May I keep this pen?
You know what? I don't know why not. Do you like it?
Because I like
Oh, you know what? I don't do anything with that. And I don't even know where I got it. And I even forgot it was in my purse. So I will never miss it. Congratulations. It's yours. Caleb. You can finish. If you finish it this week because you're so into it, you can give it to me and I'll give it back to you before Thanksgiving. Yes, that's fair. But I'm not going to ask for it until 2 weeks from now. Does everybody understand? You're just simply going to write me a story. You don't, I put this up for your convenience to understand the flow of the story. The story starts with, I don't know, maybe this guy's birth, if you want to go back that far. Maybe just that morning. Maybe, what did this guy do last night? We know that, don't we? He spent the night in the church praying because he's going to become a knight. So we know a few things. And you don't have to do the parallelism if you don't want to. Although I highly recommend strong verbs because they really make your story come alive. Oren, did you have your hand up? Here, just a second. Guys, we're just really, really talky today, but I can't hear Oren at all. All right, go ahead. We're going to do one more picture writing, and I'm going to have you put in that one. If you want to do it, do it. But I'm not going to make you. But see if you can slip a strong verb in there. Okay? Yes. But you brought me a paper today. Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm sorry. Okay, so this week, start thinking about who these guys are. If you want to just write it in 1 week, some people write really easily and they have lots of ideas and they have trouble stopping. And if you're one of those people, this is probably going to be a very easy assignment. And then some people just can't think of what they want to say. And if so, it's harder when you just have to make it up out of your own head. If you're one of those people, you have 2 weeks to do it, but don't just not think about it this week. Nathan, what did you want to say?
So we're gonna have to make the paper on it.
What do you mean 2?
So we make the cute outline.
Oh,
Then we
it's a
make
cute out.
the paragraph.
Yes, because it would not be very useful to just make an outline. Does that make sense? So yes. So we're good. I should have just said, this is what I should say, Nathan. Write a story. What happened before? What happened in the picture? What happened after? Bring it to me in 2 weeks. That's what I want. Or next week if you so desire. In which case you don't have any writing for that next week. Your paper? I think that would be lovely. I'm sure she would want to. Okay. Just very random. I feel like we're all discombobulated today. Yes.
He's asking because he wants permission to write a 3-paragraph.
Yes, I gather that. Well, I don't know what to do, John. I sent out the homework already, but I'm not your mom and I don't get the final say. Do you see what I mean? You have to do what your parents tell you to do. I'm not allowed to absolve you of obedience. But you can highly recommend that she look at the homework email and that this is what everyone else is doing. And that you can't really do more than 3 paragraphs. You could. It could make a book length story if you wanted to on the history of this man, but really we're just doing 3 paragraphs. So you can tell her I said that. How about that? Okay. Anybody else? Like we're just this is an odd day. Okay, let's talk about King Arthur. Because we read my favorite King Arthur story of all, even though I have a personal aversion to heads not on bodies. I don't like seeing that.
Did you say you watched a documentary or something?
It was a version of Henry IV. No, it was Richard II. This one was Richard II, and it was a movie, and it and I didn't expect it. and I was disturbed. No, when I was little, okay, you don't need to know what happened to me when I was little, but I had a bad experience with a head, which is not a real one, but on television. I was allowed to watch something I really probably shouldn't have been watching, but okay, it's all right. So Sir Gawain and the Green Knight is the story. Hey, can we stop? Can we stop talking? The story to which I'm referring. What would it be like if you were at a party and a huge guy who is totally green comes in and his horse is green, his skin is green, everything is green. And he comes in and he says, "Hey, I heard you guys were awesome. You want to play a game? Let's play a game." And what's the game he says they can play? Yeah, if any of you has the guts, you come take this axe and you give me one whack, whatever sort of whack you want. But a year from now, you have to come visit me at my home and I get to give you the same whack. All right. So Gawain said, all right, it's a weird game. It's a weird game. And he just chops the guy's head off. Now, one would think Gawain doesn't have to play the second half of the game now, right? You would be very wrong, wouldn't you? What does the guy do? What does he do?
He picks up his head and puts it back on his head.
Oh, but except that would be marginally okay with me. But he doesn't. He picks it up and he just holds it and it talks. And it says, and now I'm 10 years old again, having flashbacks. And it says, great, good job. See you in a year. See you in a year. All right, so if you're Gawain, how do you spend that year? Well, yeah, pretty much preparing to die. Every season that passes, this is my last one. This is the last one I'm ever going to live through because that guy's going to give me the same whack. But you know what? I can't pick up my head and just keep ducking. When he cuts mine off, it's done. But does Gawain, okay, my first question. Does Gawain have to go? Why does he go? What will everyone think of him if he doesn't go? But you know what? I didn't like that question the minute it left my mouth because here's why. Do you think Gawain cares most about what other people think about him? What does he care most about? What he thinks about himself. He would know. I'm a coward and I broke my promise. I broke faith. I promised. I have to do it. And so he goes. And he has all sorts of adventures, until he finds this guy, really friendly guy, right? And he says, "Oh, you want to come stay in my castle? You know what? The Knight of the Green Chapel, he's just a day's ride away. He's just a few hours away. You can stay here until after Christmas. Celebrate Christmas with us, and then I can have someone guide you there if you really want to go." Great. So they give him comfy bed, good food. He hangs out with the guy's wife, and the guy gets up one morning and he says, "Here's the deal. Here's what we're going to do tomorrow. I'm going to go hunting, but you Gawain, you've got enough on your mind. Don't go hunting. Just sleep in. And whatever you get today, whatever you gain, whatever gifts you receive, you give to me. And whatever I catch while I'm hunting, I'll give to you." All right. The guy gets up the next morning. What happens while he's away? Do you remember?
Wasn't like that green thing.
Okay, eventually. But what happens it happens 3 mornings. What happens the first morning? His wife, the guy's wife, comes in And she's being a little more friendly than someone else's wife ought to be, quite frankly. She says, "Oh, Gawain, oh, we don't get knights like you here very often." And it says in the story that Gawain keeps trying to deflect her. He doesn't want to insult her because that wouldn't be chivalrous. He doesn't want to say, "Lady, hit the road. You're bothering me." He's got to be nice and polite, but he's got to be careful. Yeah, Oren, I'm going to look for it. Oh, yes. Let me see if I can find the way it's described in the story. Okay. The lady of the castle, stepping silently as a sunbeam, came and sat upon his bed and talked with him merrily. Long they spoke together, and many words of love did the lady utter. But Gawain turned them all with jest and courtesy, as a true knight should who speaks with the lady of his host. And finally she says, "You know what? I don't know that you're really a knight, Gawain." He says, "Wherefore do you doubt?" Fearing that he had failed in some point of courtesy. "So true a knight as Gawain," answered the lady, "and one so gentle and courteous unto damsels, would never have tarried so long with a lady and not begged a kiss of her in parting." "Faith, fair lady," said Gawain, and you bid me to it, I will indeed ask a kiss of you, but a true knight asks not otherwise for fear to displease you." So she gives him a kiss. And this isn't as shocking to them as it might be to us. It was just a more like a handshake. It was a courtesy. Do you know? You probably know that in the French are well known for like kissing people on both cheeks when they greet. In some cultures, it's just a greeting. Okay, all right. So the guy comes home and he's caught, I don't know, a deer, and there, Gawain, have a deer. What'd you get today? What did Gawain get?
Oh my god.
What is the only thing he got?
A kiss.
A kiss. So he gives him the kiss, and he says, "Whoa. You did better than me. You want to tell me where you got that from?" And he said, "No, that wasn't part of the game. I gave you what I got. Don't have to tell you where I got it." And the guy says, "Oh, this is great fun. Let's do it again tomorrow." Same thing happens the next day. Now, the third day. And Gawain needs to leave on the next day. His appointment with the Knight of the Green Chapel is impending, and he's got to leave. And she comes in and tell us about it, Nathan. What does she offer him?
Something like that green. I don't know the word for it. Just the green thing.
Yes, so like a piece of lace, green silk. Let me find the place. Okay, she says, "Gawain, I wish you would give me like a hanky or something of yours to remember you by." And he says, "Don't have anything." "Oh, well, I'll give you something to remember me by. You can wear my favor." Now you have to understand, knights used to have a lady, the lady, or the wife, or the girlfriend, or the person that they fought for, and they would have their lace. They would take a token. "So, will you take the token from me?" "Well, I can't do that." But then she says this. Okay. "Then I will give you this green lace from my girdle," said the lady. "Wear that for my sake at least." "It may not be so," answered Gawain, "for I cannot be your knight and wear your favor." "It is but a little thing," she said, "and you may wear it hidden. Take it, I pray you, for it is a magic lace, and while a man wears it, he may not be slain, not even by all the magic upon earth. But I charge you to hide it, and tell not my lord." This proved too great a temptation for Gawain, and mindful of his ordeal with the Green Knight next day, he took the lace and promised never to reveal it. Then the lady kissed him for the third time and went away quickly. The guy comes home. "Here, have a wild boar, Gawain. What did you get today, Gawain?" What does he tell him he got? A kiss. Anything else? We don't. So, all right. So he goes to the Green Chapel the next day, and he hears the guy, "Oh, yeah, I didn't know if you'd show up." And he's up on the hill sharpening his axe. Yay. They're like, okay, Gawain. Lay your head right down there, right down there. I laid mine down for you. Here's the deal. I give you the same stroke you gave me. Do it. All right. The Green Knight swung his axe round so that it whistled and aimed a terrible stroke with the sharp blade of it. And try how he might, Gawain flinched at the sound of it. Ha! Grunted the Green Knight, lowering his axe and leaning on the handle of it. You're surely not Gawain the Brave, thus to fear even the whistle of the blade. When you struck off my head in King Arthur's hall, I never flinched from your blow. I shrank once, said Gawain, but I shall not a second time, even when my head falls to the ground, which I cannot replace as you have yours. Come now, strike quickly. I will not stay you again. Have at you then, cried the Green Knight, and whirling his axe. He smote once more, and once more he stayed his hand ere the sharp blade drew blood. He comes around, stops. Do you ever do that to someone? Do you ever like pretend you're going to hit someone or somebody's ready for something and you fake them out? You know, the Green Knight faked him out. It's coming in, he stops. But Gawain stirred not a jot or trembled in any limb. Now you are filled with courage once more, he cried, and so I may smite bravely a brave man. Hold aside your hood a little further. I am about to strike my hardest. Strike away, said Gawain. Why do you talk so much? Are you perhaps afraid thus to smite a defenseless man? Then here's the blow I promised, cried the Green Knight, swinging his axe for the third time, and now he struck truly, yet aimed with such care that the blade only parted the skin at the side of his neck. But when Gawain felt that wound and the blood over his shoulders, he sprang away in an instant, put on his helmet, drew his sword, set his shield before him, and said to the Green Knight, Now I have borne the blow, and if you strike again, it is beyond our bargain, and I may defend myself, striking stroke for stroke. The Green Knight stood leaning on his axe. Gawain, he said, all the fierceness gone out of his voice, you have indeed borne the blow, and no other will I strike you. I hold you released of all claims now. If I'd wished it, I might have struck you a crueler stroke and smitten off your head as you smote off mine. The first blow and the second that struck you not, these were for promises truly kept, for the one kiss and the two kisses that my wife gave you in the castle and you truly rendered to me. But the third time you failed, and therefore had the wound of me. You gave me the kisses, but not the green lace. Oh, well, I know all that passed between you. She tempted you by my will. Gawain, I hold you to be the noblest and the most faultless knight in all the wide world. Had you yielded to dishonor and shamed your knighthood, then would your head be lying now at my feet. As for the lace, you hid it but for love of your life, and that is a little sin, and for it I pardon you. He says, it's a little thing, Gawain. You took the lace and you didn't tell me. That's your only infraction. How does Gawain feel about it? Do you remember? Does he think it's a little thing?
No.
I am ashamed, said Gawain, handing him the green lace. For cowardice and covetousness, I betrayed my oath of knighthood. Cut off my head, Sir Knight, for I am indeed unworthy of the Round Table. Come now, cried the Green Knight, laughing merrily, so that Gawain knew him indeed to be the lord of the castle. You've borne your penance, and are quite absolved and forgiven. Take and keep this green lace in memory of this adventure, and return to my castle and end the festival in joy. Gawain says, no, I need to get back to Camelot. There is a famous poem. The high school kids will be reading it. Poem version of this story. And at the end of that poem, Gawain goes back to Camelot and he just never forgives himself. He says he wants to tie the green lace, so everyone can see it all the time. And it reminds him of how faithless he was. And all his friends and King Arthur say, Gawain, let it go. We all make mistakes. You were trying to save your life, but he can't let it go. And we started this class talking about the chivalry and the code of forgiveness and mercy, right? Do we sometimes need to have a little mercy on ourselves? After God has forgiven us for something, sometimes it's hard to forgive ourselves when we do something wrong. But when God forgives you, you need to forgive yourself. Gawain needs to forgive himself. It's a creepy story. And here's the creepiest thing to me. Why green? What do we usually think of? When you think of the color green, what do you think of? Oh, go. Okay. What? Trees, plants. Yeah, because usually when I think of green, I think of living things, life, right? And this is why I think, have you ever noticed that in January and February, we're getting there? It's kind of nice to have evergreen trees. It's kind of nice to see something with a color because all the other trees is just, everything's brown. If there's no snow, everything's brown for months. And it just gives you a little joy. Oh, it's the green tree. I think of green as life, but the Green Knight comes and he seems to be the bearer of death. Do you know what I mean? He's threatening death, but he's green like life. I don't know. It says, I don't remember at the end of the story in your version, if he says who he is, I mean, why he is what he is. Yeah, somebody, who did he say put it up to it? Oh, yes. The enchantment comes from Nimue, the Lady of the Lake. In some versions, it's Morgana Le Fay who puts a different twist on it because she's always trying to do wicked things. I guess who gives him this power? That changes who he is. You know, if he's wicked or good. If he's death, I would think he's kind of wicked. You know, death isn't a good thing. But he has the color of life. It's just very odd. I mentioned this a couple of times before, but you also read about Sir Gaheris, the Knight of the Kitchen, right? Who is Gaheris's relative? Who is he? He's related to Gawain. He's top-notch knighthood nobility. But he doesn't tell anyone who he is. Why doesn't he just say, hey, I'm Gawain's brother, so I must be awesome, make me a knight? Why doesn't he just say it? How will everyone respond to him if he says it, Hans?
He's mad because they did work and he doesn't have to do it.
Oh, that's a very good point. So what if he comes in, hey, any brother of Gawain's is a friend of ours. Come on in. You must be worthy of knighthood. Here, have a nice, seat at the table. He wants to prove himself. He wants to earn it. And does he? He does. He does. What does the lady think of him? And why is she so mean to him? Do you remember? Does anybody remember? Because he's low class and he had been working in the kitchen for a year. He said, give me food and a job for a year and then give me a chance to prove myself. She says, I'm trying to find one place where she first talks to him. Fie upon you, she cried. Why have you dared to follow me? You stink of the kitchen, and your clothes are moldy with grease and tallow. As for that knight, he did say the same thing. He said, you stink as well. As for that knight whom you have wounded or killed, you struck him a coward's blow. Turn around, go back to your kitchen. For I well know that you are only the dirty scullion whom Sir Kay named Beaumain because of your big hands. Your hands are fit for plucking fowls and turning the spigot. How does Gaheris answer her always? Courteously.
Did I spoil something about the story?
Yeah, we should have all read it already.
Somehow, even though she's so mean to him, they somehow still end up being.
They do. Why do you think that is? And does it have anything to do with the question I just asked you? How does Gaheris always respond to her? Courteously. He never, I'm sorry, I don't know if I would be good at that. If somebody were following me around insulting me constantly, I think I'd have to give him a piece of my mind. But Gaheris never does. Does politeness and courtesy win people over? Sometimes. If we don't answer a harsh word for a harsh word, do you know, if we answer back kindly, it's really hard to resist. Some people can. Some people, no matter how nice you are to them and you keep being nice, they just don't respond. But a lot of people do. And the lady Lynette, who's following Gaheris around, she does. She does. All right. Here's what I'd like you to read for next week. We're going to read the next Dorothy Mills chapter. Also, you might want to jot this down because it's a little more complicated. We're going to read in King Arthur, Book 2, chapters 5 through 8, and also Book 3, chapters 1 and 2. In Book 3, we start the quest for the Holy Grail. They're going to go scouring. Yes, yes. In fact, you're going to meet him again this week. We're going to meet his sword, not him, but his sword, because he's dead. You're going to meet, he's going to be mentioned again, is what I meant. So this is what I'd like you to read. It's more chapters, but it's not really more pages. Okay, I divided it into 4 parts, so even don't be scared. Some of the chapters are pretty short. This is what I'd like you to read for next week. And then Dorothy Mills, the next chapter, 13. Is 13 the next chapter? Oh, I think we're skipping chapter 12. So read Dorothy Mills chapter 13. If you can't remember, it's in the reading guide. The next page tells you what to read. And start thinking about this guy's backstory. Where is he from? You can give him a name. You can embellish him in any way you want. And with that, you guys can go. Have a good week, and I will see you next time.